What is up guys, it's Tom here and welcome to the latest Liverpool transfer news video. And in this video we will mainly talk about Naby Keita's transfer to Liverpool. Will it happen, won't it happen, all the pros and cons and all the details that you need to know about the transfer. But also we will mention Philippe Coutinho, and if Coutinho goes, Klopp reportedly, according to the Mirror, wants Pulisic, and also Liverpool are looking at Barcelona midfielder Rafinha as Coutinho's potential replacement, and also Barcelona might want to get Eden Hazard or Dele Alli instead of Coutinho, according to the Daily Mirror. Also other reports are saying Coutinho would cost Barcelona £133 million. And let me know guys what they think about all these transfer moves. But the biggest story, reporter Melissa Reddy, who is pretty close to Liverpool, she has some sources close to the club, and she's reporting that the deal for Naby Keita is practically impossible this summer because Red Bull Leipzig just are not wanting to sell him. But I'm still not convinced that this transfer is 100% over. They said many times that they are not interested in selling Naby Keita at any price. Liverpool have had two bids rejected, one for £54 million and the other for £66 million. But I still have a gut feeling that Jurgen Klopp doesn't give up on this deal because Naby Keita wants to move to Liverpool. He had a training ground bust up very recently with one of his teammates, Demme, I think that's what his teammate is called. Basically, he got tackled by Demme. The crowd actually cheered that in a pre-season, which was kind of weird. And when Naby Keita retaliated and tackled that same player who tackled him, and he actually got injured and had to go to the hospital, the crowd booed Naby Keita, and then they had an altercation, they had the scuffle, which happens sometimes in training, so I don't think we should read too much into it. But Naby Keita didn't look happy in that training session, that's what we can say. And the big question is, would Ralf Rangnick really refuse £75 million when, you know, Naby Keita can leave for £48 million in a release clause next summer? So what Rangnick maybe is thinking is just to keep Naby Keita for one more season, try to qualify for the Champions League again, try to go deep in the Champions League, maybe reach the knockout stages, maybe the last 8, and then with Naby Keita they can basically generate the same amount of money that, or even more money, and raise the profile of the club even more than if they lost Naby Keita to Liverpool but they gained a lot of money. That kind of makes sense to me, to be honest. I kind of understand the feeling of Ralf Rangnick, but Ralf Rangnick made some very interesting comments about Naby Keita's you know, representatives and his entourage. So Ralf Rangnick said that Naby Keita had his head turned by a whole village in Guinea, which didn't really go down well in Guinea, as you can probably imagine. Some Guinea journalists and some fans actually called him racist as well, which is of course not what you want as a sporting director of a Bundesliga club. But Rangnick actually clarified and cleared up the comments, and he had to go on the defensive, and he said this, and I quote, "I know Naby Keita from the very first day when he came to Salzburg. We therefore have a very close relationship. Also to his advisor, we are in a trusting exchange. That is exactly what I said in my lecture in Bochum. Behind many players with an African background, and I've met a lot of them, there is a clan and sometimes a whole village that lives from the help of one football player." And that kind of makes sense because Africa, you know, most regions in Africa and in Guinea are pretty poor, not as well off as Western Europe, certainly not as well off as Germany, and one player earns as much money that he can help basically a whole village to live better in his homeland. So that kind of makes sense. And also Rangnick said this, and it's the case that there are people behind Naby that demand his transfer, and that also makes sense because if Naby Keita goes to Liverpool, he will earn probably twice as much or even 3 times as much as what he earns right now at Salzburg. at Red Bull Leipzig, and of course Naby Keita's friends and Naby Keita's family wants him to earn as much money as possible so they can get maybe more money from him. And that's also a very interesting aspect of football to think about. Rangnick also said this: "Believe me, my knowledge in geography are good enough to differentiate between Guinea and Africa." So that's also very interesting. Rangnick also once more insisted that they are very determined to keep this player. He also said this, and I quote, "It is important for us that these two players play next season with us," and that's Keita and Forsberg. And he said, "I can assure you that this is the only thing I know for sure. Even if there are still 5 more offers, this will not change our position. Perhaps not all have understood this," referring maybe to Liverpool. "Even if the player were a classic car, I would not sell him as a classic car. He knows that I appreciate him a lot." So, does this mean that the deal is dead? That's the question on everyone's mind who is a Liverpool fan. And we can't be sure for 100% because Rangnick said the same things about Sadio Mane, and Mane had the same agent and has the same agent as Keita. And Mane went on probably the last day of the transfer window from Red Bull Salzburg, the Austrian club, not the Red Bull Leipzig, the German club. He went from Salzburg to Southampton, and then he went from Southampton to Liverpool. And at Red Bull Salzburg at that time, Rangnick was the manager, if I'm not mistaken, and now he's the sporting director at Leipzig. So maybe one of the reasons why he also doesn't really want to hear anything about this transfer, he really is determined to keep this player because he has been burnt once already by this agent who represented Sadio Mane. And Mane got sold to Southampton probably on the last day. But this also has another side of the coin, and that is that the same could happen here. The same could happen that Rangnick digs in his heels, but the club's board ultimately will think that 70 or 75 million is just too much money to turn down for probably a small club in Germany right now, and they want to ultimately become a big club and they want to challenge Bayern Munich in the long run, but right now they don't have the finances to compete with Liverpool. Hell, not even I think Borussia Dortmund or Schalke or any other big club who has the finances to compete with Liverpool. Only Bayern Munich have the finances in the Bundesliga to compete with Liverpool or Liverpool's wages. So this is a very, very interesting story. And I'm not sure what the final outcome will be, but Liverpool definitely need to line up some alternatives, and I think one of the biggest, alternative could be Raja Nainggolan, who I'm a huge fan of in AS Roma. He's such an absolute beast, a powerhouse, a very well-rounded footballer who can tackle, who can run, who can score goals, who can get assists. But most importantly, he can be a box-to-box ultimate, midfield machine who works tirelessly for 95 minutes all game long, and that's exactly what Jurgen Klopp needs. That's exactly what Liverpool need, a very dynamic midfielder who can break up play and who can start the attack and either carry the ball forward or distribute the ball to either Coutinho or Lallana or Wijnaldum or Henderson or the white players. If we offered the same amount of money to Roma for Nainggolan, they would sell. If we offered 65 or 70 million to Nainggolan, they would sell. But I think why Jurgen Klopp is fixated on Naby Keita is that Naby Keita would just fit into Liverpool's first team so perfectly, and he would be just Liverpool's dream signing. And Jurgen Klopp said himself many times that he either gets the right player or he prefers not to sign anybody at all. There is no point signing or your second or third choice if they are really not as good as the first choice, if you have alternatives in reserve. And Liverpool have quite a few young players like Ovi Ejaria and other midfielders who could come in and play for Liverpool, and Emre Can's contract talks is getting closer and closer to be finalized. and hopefully Emre Can will extend his contract. He only has 1 year left on his contract, remember, and we don't want to lose Emre Can for free next summer. He could actually start negotiations with other club in January, on January the 1st. That's the rule of being on the last year of your contract. So we absolutely have to extend Emre Can's contract for another season, with signing Keita or Nainggolan, or even without signing them. It's vital that we keep such a huge talent of Emre Can. Not just financially, it would make sense, because to lose a £30 million midfielder like Emre Can for free would be devastating for Liverpool, but also what he brings in the team. He is already integrated into the team and he's improving all the time. He had a great second half of the last season. So I will talk a lot more about Coutinho to Barcelona and what the latest details are in this transfer saga in another video, because that deserves its own whole full video. It's such an interesting topic. But the Mirror reports that Liverpool will go after Borussia Dortmund's Christian Pulisic this summer if they lose Coutinho to Barcelona. Of course, Barcelona targeted Coutinho as a replacement for Neymar if Neymar joins Paris Saint-Germain, and of course there are conflicting reports about that as well, but it looks increasingly likely that PSG will sign Neymar for £200 million, which is just crazy, absolutely insane. And Liverpool are also interested in Barcelona midfielder Rafinha, so he could be involved in the deal if Liverpool decide to sell Coutinho, but I really think we shouldn't at any price. Even if Barcelona paid 200 million for Coutinho, I wouldn't sell him, honestly. What do we do with that 200 million? Honestly, we could sign Van Dijk for like 80 million, we could sign Keita for 80 million as well. We couldn't sign a player as good as Coutinho, who fits into the Liverpool team, as good as Coutinho, who knows the Liverpool's teammates, who knows the Premier League, as well as Coutinho does. So that's why I'm saying we shouldn't sell at any price. I really hope that Barcelona turn instead to Eden Hazard or Dele Alli as a replacement to Neymar. For Neymar, the Daily Mirror also reports that they are interested in these two players as well. So let me know, guys, what do you think about this? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. See you later. Goodbye.